All right. Hello, this is Kiki Dickinson from Building Healthier Communities. I'm excited to be doing another webinar and having Peg Gagnon, the Executive Director of Bridge, come here, and we're just going to casually talk about Bridge, learn about its history, and learn about Peg and what's going on. I think that there's so much that you can offer people in the St. Croix Valley and even farther, and I'm just excited to have the time. So thank you, Peg. Please let us know a
You're
little bit about
welcome.
yourself. Okay.
Thank you for inviting me, Kiki. Well, our organizations. I know you're housed over at St. Croix Therapy, and so we're kind of neighbors out there along
Yeah.
Rocky Drive there.
Yeah.
So I like that. There's a little fertile valley there of all good work going for families, in St. Croix Valley. But yes, I'm the founder and executive director of Bridge for Community Life. I actually am a co-founder, I should say. There were a group of families back in 2004 that came together, and we all had children either at the high school level or the middle school level who were in special education, and they were getting ready. By the time you turn 14, you have to start doing those statewide transition plans so that the schools can start to get prepare you and your child when they will be actually exiting special education. And most of our families were either exiting special education at 18, 19, 20, or 21. You do have to definitely be done by the time you're 21. And there was, all the 10 families that were involved there, our children there were not really a lot of post high school opportunities for our children or children like ours in the area there. They had one adult program, out at that the county ran. It was called the St. Croix Industries. And
Yes.
that was full, number one, back in that day.
Oh,
This is 20 years ago. And also even if they had openings, many of our kids, our own children, would not have been able to fit in that model of work and things like that, or a meaningful day. So we really got together. What happened is that Nancy Sweet, who was the special ed director at that time in the Hudson School
yes.
District, came to me because they were the school district. This is before Bridge actually formed, but it's fun to capture this piece of history because
Yes,
when I
for
retire,
sure.
it might go away. Um, how this actually came about, our organization came about, is that Nancy Sweet was the superintendent of special education at Hudson. They were looking for a community location that they could rent for 9 months out of the school year and offer community-based special education to students between the ages of 14 and 21. And so we were able to work with what happened is that I was on a little task force with them, and I knew many of the landlords in the community. I'd been a lifelong resident of Hudson, and we were able to a landlord who did have a home that could be leased for 9 months, wanted to lease it, but he wanted to lease it year round. It also turned out that this landlord was an employee of the school district. So the school district could not directly lease from their own
Oh,
employee for an outside piece of business. It was not an allied educational, it was considered outside of the role, or conflict of interest, if you will. So I had another partner, Peggy Reinhardt, who was another mother on the committee, and she came to me and she said we should just form a nonprofit, a 501c3. Peg, you can run it. She pointed at me, and then she said you can find the board or whatever because you know everybody in Hudson, which I did a lot, and at least in the special needs world. And she said that way that entity could lease the building, the home from the landlord, and then we could release it, sublet it to the school district for 9 months out of the year. And then we knew we would be able to use it during the summer because we knew we had folks looking for activities for their kids with disabilities to do between June and September. So that's a short point. That's what we did. It
uh,
wasn't that
that
easy. It
no.
took us about a year to get all the infrastructure in place, zoning approval with the city. We had to get a grant from the Bremer Foundation to modify and bring the building into ADA compliance. We worked with the Center for Independent Living in Menominee that came over and helped us with off-street parking and ramping. So it was a real community effort, and it that's where Bridge started. And I just called up one night 10 people that I knew, friends and acquaintances, who I felt could bring a lot to the board. And they were either godparents of, they happened to be godparents of people with disabilities who were also attorneys, or they had children that were needed disabilities and they were doctors and they were accountants and they were, business people and homemakers and mothers and dads. And so we put together a really nice opening board there and started. And here we are 20 some years later. That was 2004. We're 22 years
Yeah.
later.
Because
Uh,
that was groundbreaking. I remember when it was happening, and like because the house was on Main Street, right? Like right
yes,
off exit one. And it was such a big deal that the students were able to go there and work on skills instead of in a fake environment, but really,
yeah.
and then have events. But I remember the parents being so excited to have this center and this building and things. So
Yeah, we
yeah.
did. We had a lot of fun down there. We had, of course, Nancy Sweet was the visionary, and she really needs credit for that. And then, Bridge came in. I had no real experience even running a nonprofit. I had some real estate experience, and I'd raised a child with this, and I'd done some other sales and marketing and things like that early in my career. But I took to it just like a duck to water. It was really fun. And we had a lot of parties down there and we'd have brunches, invite everybody in. And we were a membership organization, so we'd have membership drives. And a lot of that, those founding 10 board members did a lot of work and pulled
Yes.
together. We had FIPS financing and Bremer financing because it took us about, we really needed to enhance the building, and I think we put about $75,000 into that building because we
Okay.
off-street parking. Um, we remodeled the whole kitchen. So if you were using a chair, you could roll up to the stove, you could roll up to the kitchen sink. We had uh, we didn't have anybody stay overnight there, but we did have a mock bedroom in there so they could learn how to fold clothes, make their bed, strip a bed, make a bed, all those daily living skills that are so needed if you're going to live, on your own or live even independently, more independently, maybe not totally independently, but more independently. So, and in the school district staffed it during the school year. And then during the summertime, we offered a little summer camp down there. Uh, we had that people could come by the week. We didn't even make them come all summer or anything. We were so new to it.
Wow.
And the county also helped because we were starting to get, as a nonprofit, we could start to offer home and community-based services. Again, our children had used home and community-based services, but I had never created a business that could offer that. And so we had to learn all about how to do that, what licenses were required or not, very much like starting this special children's center, as I always call
Yeah.
it. There's a
Yes.
ground when you're starting something like that, there's all these different partners that play into it. And bit by bit, you just grow and grow and grow. So
Right. So
it's been a life changer. It's been a
it
life
started
changer
so,
for me. And
yes.
I mean, I was so great. I'm so grateful. I was found that when I was well into my career, and just it was a good time in my life because my kids were at a certain age where I could do it, and it's just never been work, and it's just grown and grown and grown. We've never counted how many people have touched us with disabilities, but we're going to do that this summer. We have
Wow.
opportunity to get a temporary intern who's going to help us do some data maintenance around fundraising and development. And I want him to also, or her, also codify, how many clients we think came through. We have pretty good record,
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it started so organically and
yeah.
it's grown. So yeah, tell us more about where you're at now. Is that facility still owned by Bridge? Is that on Main Street there, or do you
Oh
just
yeah, that happened. Yeah, we started with the little house, and that was for our school project and for our summer stuff. Starting in 2005, we opened a little summer camp there. And then at that time, it's 2005, we knew we were going to need some office space because we were operating out of our cars or the hood of our car or the kitchen table at Claiborne when no one was there. And so we had Linda Redding, which we were talking about before we started talking later today, was one of our board members. And she said the First Presbyterian Church is building a new church out on Vine Street. They were moving from downtown to uptown. And she said, I think that they would be interested in having us, Rich for Community Life, rent some office space from. They're looking to partner and have a meaningful partnership where they would be working with groups in the community that would be enhancing, helping and healing people. And so she had me go to their board meeting down at their original church down on 3rd Street one August night. So hot. It was like 100 degrees in there. And I could see why they wanted a new building just to get air conditioning. And I met with the church board and talked, and they hadn't even, I think they had started digging, but there were no walls. There may have been a slab. I'm not sure. Although I don't think so. I think there was a hole. And they were so taken with hosting us that they actually modified their plans for that building to make sure that they put in a completely accessible bathroom with a roll-in shower. Not that we were going to need
Wow.
that, but if we needed that during the day, we always had it in case someone needed to be cleaned up or
Right.
needed assistance in that way. So it was, and then they set aside 2 offices for us, and they gave us a very reasonable rent. And we were there and then they gave us use of the fellowship hall, which could serve about another 12 or 15 clients during the school year who had already finished school, but didn't have, we ran a small little social program during the school year for those folks that didn't have school to go back to. And we were able, at that time, those clients could access those services through their county waiver programs. That was still the county-based adult KIP 1B waivers and things like that. That was from 2005. I think we got in there sometime in 2005,
Okay.
maybe 2000, spring of 2006. We stayed there and worked and built our program there until 2010, where we
Okay.
were outgrowing the church. The
Yeah.
home and community-based waiver system in Wisconsin transferred from a county-based program to a regional program, a statewide program for their self-directed supportive waiver, the IRIS program, or a regional program with family care. For your listeners, these are the Wisconsin
Yes.
programs that actually pay for services either in occupational speech or language, or they would pay for community-based services, which is what we offer, respite, supportive home care, day programming and things, transportation. They were switched in 2008, they switched over to the current model. And I got asked to sit on that transition team, which was perfect because it was part of my job to figure out how our clients could connect it to the new statute and the new waiver. And then I was also learning as we went along where all the pits and valleys were and what we needed to do. So I could keep up to speed, keeping the organization really currently enrolled. We never missed a month of payments.
Wow.
I never had to close because our clients didn't have government funding. And that's really
Okay.
the key there, is to make sure your clients are connected to where the services that they need to be connected. Well, we were
And then
outgrowing the church.
oh, I just have one question with the waiver.
Yeah.
So one of the members that couldn't join today, but she's definitely gonna be watching this later. She was wondering, she has like a 13-year-old, and she's like, are all the summer programs based on the waiver, or families have chosen not to have the waiver? Is there ways for
You can
them to?
you can always private pay. You're
Okay,
not, if you, for any of our programs, you don't have to use the waiver. Or most people, the day-to-day expenses of this can really add up for families. And so
right.
most families that use our services do not private pay for them. We help them get connected to the waiver. A child who's 13, they could also come and use a private pay if they didn't have a waiver. We could encourage them and coach them on how to seek out information to be connected to the waiver. They probably
And I
are,
think
if they're using your services, they probably are connected. They just don't
right,
realize it, that it could also pay for
right.
that.
So I think in their case, they were paying out of pocket. They had a cost share, and the cost share was pretty
Yeah,
significant, and they weren't taking advantage. They didn't have a lot of things that they needed. So that's why I was saying I think I'm going to learn today that these organizations at Bridge, because she's like, what do we do during the summer? Like I don't know what kind of programs to get her in and those kind of things. And so I said, well, I'm going to find out more, and maybe you will want to do waiver then, right?
she should. Yes, you should pass my name and contact information on to
Okay.
them.
Okay.
Because I still do a lot of family and client intake. And
Okay.
so especially for children, the
Okay.
youngsters. Um, Jessie Stickler is our program director for adults, and she handles the adult side. And by the time you're an
Okay.
adult, you pretty much have been connected to your waiver because you're generally your adult child is also getting connected to Social Security, and that all come you have to go through an introductory period with the county at the Aging and Disability Resource Center. So you're usually adults are usually screen caught, and I don't mean caught, but I mean they're usually
Right.
identified for services.
Right.
Children are a little less identifiable because they don't have guardians; they have moms and dads, and
Right.
the school isn't really tasked or required to act as a social worker to these
Right.
kids with special needs. They've got enough on their plate doing education. So often I tell families who are under 18, just call me. Or I was at a fair at your organization there a few weekends
Yeah.
ago. We took some names and phone numbers, or they shared their names and phone numbers with me because they were
Great.
interested in hearing about more services. And I'm starting to reach out and talk to those folks. So they should call me because I can,
Okay.
if we
Good.
don't have a program that we offer, I can at least give them some language on what to ask their social worker so they can become more knowledgeable about what benefits they do have
Okay.
with the waiver, because they do have, there's, as you know, there's, I don't want to get too deep into policy, but
Right. Sure.
your a speech and language pathologist is paid on a different part of the waiver than a based
Right.
agency is, for
Right.
example, for respite care. Those are two
Right.
different parts of the Medicaid waiver.
Right.
It's
Right. For
complicated
sure.
for families.
It is
Yeah.
complicated. Yeah. And that's why with Building Healthier Community, we're trying to have so many different speakers talk about we're going to have someone come from the waiver program to talk about it, but it changes in, over time. And I know that it
Yes, it
is
does. And
going to
it's
change
changing again.
January again too. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And
So let's,
I don't, Bridge doesn't administer the waiver, but we have
no,
great relationships with the
yes,
county and the
I
Iris
bet.
network and the family care network. And I can help the families figure out who they should be talking to
That's
and
great. That's
and
good to
what kind of
know.
questions they may want to
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
ask.
I think so. Yeah, why don't you tell us about a little bit more of the history, and then let's go into what Bridge offers. Because I know you offer, I was looking at your website, day
Okay,
programming, even weekend program. So we have so much to cover. So yes.
we do. Well, just to bring you up to date, in 2010, we received a USDA loan guarantee that allowed us to buy the building on Rocky Drive. And they didn't give us money, but they guaranteed our loan a percent of the value of the building. And this was in 2000, we bought it on New Year's Eve 2009 during the
Oh my
day.
gosh.
And we'd had enough savings from fundraising and things like that we could demonstrate to the USDA and to the local lender that we could cover the 20% that wasn't, if we should default on the loan. Well, we didn't default. We grew and grew and grew and grew and did more fundraising and built out the building, and it's beautiful now. And we burned that mortgage about 5 to 6 years after we took it out.
Wow. That's
Yeah, so we own
impressive.
the building debt free now, and that's such a great feeling because we've rented before, and sometimes you can get a notice from a landlord you have to move, and that's hard to do with when
Yeah.
you're trying to offer things. But anyway, that's when we moved out to your neighborhood out there, and we have a 7,500 square foot program building now, and that can lead into kind of what we're offering now. We have
Yeah.
really two entities. We have Bridge for Community Life, and then Bridge to Home Services. And I'll start with the Community Life
Okay.
company.
Sounds good.
That's the nonprofit, and we founded that in 2004. And that's the one that I've been talking to you all along now, that
Yes.
we offer an adult day program Monday through Friday, year round, at the Brocky site. We bring in that right now we have about 50 clients that attend that program, not every day, but you can come part-time or full-time. We
Okay.
also transport 60% of those clients to and from that program every
Wow.
week, and that those clients live in 12 different school districts between Pierce and
Wow.
St. Croix County. At one time, we were the largest transportation company in St. Croix County. I don't know if we still
Wow.
are or not, but we have about 12 vehicles. We put on about 4 to 6,000 miles a month, just getting people from picking up from their home or where they live and bringing them into the program for their meaningful day. And then, of course, we go back out into the community. Once they're at the building, we hub out into the greater community for shopping and errands and classes and, doing things with the library. We do a lot of we have those clients like to do a lot of volunteering, so they volunteer at the area food shelves. They're volunteering at the Hammond Library right now. The Hammond Library put on an edition, and our folks are out there helping them rebook and restock the shelves. It's just wonderful to see them to do that. We have a large partnership with the University at River Falls. We send a group down to the university every week for during the school year so that they get to learn a little bit more about what are the various departments and organizations and groups with college students, and that's turned into just a wonderful program. So that's a very robust, big program. And we had one during COVID, we had to close that program. We
Right.
couldn't meet in congregate, and because of that, we started our virtual services at that point. And so we made sure everybody had a laptop or a Chromebook. And if they didn't, we got them one and we got them signed up so that we were running classes from 9 to 3 every hour, and they could sign up for hourly classes so that we could stay in touch with them in their homes and run a lot of
Wow.
different, we, we had everything from cooking to making creative bagel sandwich making to I'm trying to think of the funniest one we may have had. We had a lot of craft classes going on there. Our staff was very creative, and of course they had to do this all from their house, which was really fun.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
we've gone back to the building, and we've had most of our clients return to us. We do a little bit of supportive employment. That is, if you have a job and you need some job coaching on the job, we still do a little bit of that. Not a lot, but some
Okay.
there. We do a big summer program for youth ages 12 to 18. And so we have,
Okay.
or 12 to 22, depending on which part of the school year you're in. And so we have 31 summer people coming with us for the months of June, July, and part of August. And so we hire up for that. We hire a seasonal staff. We are leasing space again back at the church, the First Presbyterian Church. With our building can't sustain 30 more clients, so we're moving 20 of those clients to the church and going to be operating out of their fellowship hall. I think we take 12 clients per week on that one, and so that's
Is
filled up
that
right
is that
away.
full?
There's a big
That's
need.
totally full, Peg. That's totally full for this year.
That fills up really fast. So
Okay.
I there we have basically we're starting in another week, and every week is filled, to the
Okay.
capacity there.
So how do
That
families find out about that in the
They
future?
should find out about that from their social worker. If they have a social worker and they come to your
Okay.
facility, they should starting in January, February, March, the first quarter of the year,
Okay.
we notify the social workers that this is going up and this is who we have. You can also follow along on the Bridge Facebook page. We do promote the event,
Okay.
the class there. You
Okay.
can also call Bridge Monday through Friday, 9 to 3, and we will get you an application out. But call early, call in January or February. This is,
Okay.
we've been doing this for several years now, and so families stay with their child starts with us with 12 and goes all the way up with us through the school year, every summer.
Yeah.
So we've been very
Because
successful
I
in
know that
building
is a
that.
big issue for a
Call
lot of
early.
families. Yeah. Okay. And maybe that'll keep
Yeah.
growing. Who knows? Such a need.
Yes, we would never not. No, 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 we're growth oriented. If it's continuing to be this strong, we'd have to find one more location for the summer as well. And we could probably open up another church facility because the church we do really well where there's a kitchen and a meeting room and good ADA
Yeah.
bathrooms. That's really
Right.
helpful for us because also the program is very active. And so we assign two vans to the program so that they each day they're going out 2 to 3 times during that 9 to 3 to do activities in the community. They may go up to the Y to swim. They may go out to Walmart to buy their groceries because they're going to make brownies the next day. You know, there's all they access the waterfront for hiking and recreation and leisure and recreation and picnicking. So Hudson's a beautiful place to work out of because there's so many things to do there. And even in the
Right.
surrounding areas with we buy all the park passes so they can get out to the Willow River State Park and
Oh my
hike and
gosh.
learn about
Wow.
go to the nature programs and things like that. So it's the river college the college classes aren't as available in the summer, but we do use those and that's a big resource for us in the winter.
Okay.
So
And
that
is there an age limit for bridge? Like an upper age
no
limit?
her age. Yeah, we have
Okay.
people that are in their 60s and I thought for one time we had somebody in their 70s. Yeah. No, we
Wow.
don't have any age. There's no age delimitation. It's really whether or not you have the stamina to do the program.
Right.
And you don't have to have huge stamina because you don't have to go on an outing or anything, but we individually onboard each client and we want to make sure that we have the ability to care for them and meet their needs, and also offer them meaningful daily activity that they can get engaged with, which is we have a terrific staff and Jesse runs just a stellar program. And our summer program is run really well too.
Because yeah, I know that the programs, the other programs you alluded to, like was a work program, and but then they stopped that, which
Well,
they're not able to do work because of the payment kind of thing, which was it's complicated. And that's a whole nother talk in
it
itself. But
is.
I know that there were some families who were like that their child really liked to do the work, even though they weren't compensated maybe as they should be, but yet it was like so then the activities that they have might not be interesting. Whereas so maybe some of those families want to hear more
Yes.
about Bridge and what they have to offer. Yeah.
Right. And we have part-time schedules too. So if somebody already has a job, we have a lot of guys that have jobs already, but they just come to Bridge on the days they don't work. So they
Okay.
might work 2 days a week and then they come to us on the other days. Um, and the other 2 days or something, they work three. There is an issue right now, and this is in 2026 with the Department of Workforce Development and DVR. And
Yes.
for people with disabilities, the standard route to employment, your first stop is DVR. They've kind of structured the program that way. I hope they change that. I haven't heard of any change because right now there is a 1 year waiting period to actually get any services from DVR. And you're right,
Right.
it has to do with funding at the state level. So now there could be some other options, and if someone already has a job and just needs help coaching, they should call us because we can
Okay.
help kind of in those scenarios. There, so that's all I really want to say about that. There's another option, but the state hasn't fully utilizing that yet, and I don't want to give people a
Yes.
false hope
Okay.
that there would be another way to enter employment because the state hasn't sanctioned that yet, but it's out there, and I always ask about it when I bring
Yes.
their attention. The other
Then I
program I
saw
want
that
to
you have
mention that we started during COVID
okay.
is our Bridge to Home Services program. But did you have
Okay.
any more follow-up questions about the
Oh yeah, like
community life? We can
it
finish off
says
with.
evening and weekend programs and social and
Oh yeah,
recreational.
yes, we have well, the evening and weekend programs would primarily be referring them over to our sister agency, our Bridge to Home Services, because we offer
Okay.
after school and weekend supportive home care, respite, daily living skills training. That would be primarily that piece.
Okay.
And Bridge partnership arrangement with Bridge to Home Services. And so we're a full partner in that organization and we staff it and then the Bridge to Home folks train the staff or they run the staff. And what I mean by run is that they have to do all the scheduling because this is all one-on-one scheduling. These are
Okay.
one staff being sent out to one home, and we're managing 45 to 50 clients right now, and we're probably doing around almost 1,500 to 2,000 hours of service a month there. And so you have to
Wow.
schedule all those hours individually. And so I have
Oh my
there's a
gosh.
Bridge to Home has three managers that just manage that scheduling piece. It's all done online with software, but it's a very high touch schedule because cancellations occur, people get sick, staff resign, or families go on vacation. It's, every month to month, you're massaging and really working that staffing module just like a puzzle. But we also have leisure and recreation programs that we offer
Okay.
a few during the year, several actually. We try to do something every quarter. And so we
Okay.
have a Halloween dance and party a Saturday in October. We have a large come and see Santa program one day at the church during December, early December. And that's really nice because we schedule and make arrange for personal visits with Santa Claus. Sometimes waiting in line at a mall is very distracting for a
Yes.
family who has a child with sensitivity, with input.
Right.
And so we arrange for that uh, you can come. We have quiet rooms available for that. We also have sibling rooms where there's a Christmas cookie walk, there's a Christmas fishing pond, there's making your Santa list. We have a whole coffee enroll section for parents, which I man, so that we can talk to parents and just
Yes.
do some fellowship things and acquaint ourselves. And often my whole role in this company really is to help moms and dads. That's really why I do this. I love the clients, don't get me wrong, and I want to see their kids succeed. But the real warriors in this are the mom and dad, and they are the ones that are
Absolutely.
overseeing their child's development and their child's opportunities, and they're underwriting that often out of their own pocket too, as they would want to. But it is, as you know, it's stressful, parenting a
Right.
child with special needs because you are interfacing with teachers, you're interfacing with social workers, you're interfacing with providers,
Mm-hmm.
you
So
know,
much. So
all the time.
much.
So there's a lot. And so that's just sort of our soft give and bridge is that, anybody can call us and you'll probably get somebody on the line that can talk to you and figure out what your problem is if you don't know what your problem is, but we can figure out who you should be talking to about it. If not us,
That's
then we
great.
know who at the county you should be talking to, who at the school. Do you need a statewide ombudsman representation? We are so we over the years our knowledge of who is available within the state to help us, or even a little bit like what you're trying to do in Building Healthy America. You know, those if we know that you can refer them to us and we can answer the question because you can't
Right.
possibly know every question either.
N-
We won't know every question
exactly.
about the therapeutic activities or medical things or things like
Right.
that, or getting those kind
Right.
of um,
Right.
activities satisfied. So you really do have to
Yeah.
cooperate with your area
No,
agencies.
this is great to know because as Building Healthier Community came out of its pilot stage, we've kind of figured out in 2026 that we can't have all the resources and they're changing in the website. So like doing these interviews and having families learn where to contact and where to go is really building that community for families to know all of the different places. So I think this
Yeah.
is this is great. It's great to know your role as well because it's much more than I ever knew. So with the caregivers, so what would that look like? Are they doing like actual like, helping them transfer and get ready for bed, or are they
Oh,
taking them out in
sure,
the
sure.
community? Or are they
Yeah,
doing everything?
we can do pretty much what we want to do. What we there in the Bridge to Home program, whether it's a one-to-one and we match the care to the client need. We have clients that need very little physical assistance. They're
Right,
they're they're very good, or communication assistance, but they may be needing help with modifying their behavior or acting, learning how to navigate in a large setting, or learning some getting out into the community and doing some activities without their mom and dad and giving the mom and
Yeah,
dad a break under their respite program. So, and we also do supportive home care for folks. So if they need some more assistance where, they might need help, assistance with the restroom, or they might need assistance with grooming or hygiene or things like that, we can also fill in those areas as well too. We also have transportation, and I know we're supporting two or three folks who live on their own in their own apartment. So we do some supportive housing
nice.
assistance there. And so those folks usually don't drive. And so they need two or three times, sometimes 3 times a week, maybe. And usually our guys that are living on their own would need us to come into the, just depending on what their situation is. Um, would need some help with light housekeeping or getting to the grocery store and getting their groceries or planning menus and eating well, yeah, being nutritionally sound in what they're eating. Um, making sure that if they're managing any of their finances, which they usually aren't, but some are. We have a young man that we're helping here who actually came out of a homeless situation, and he got through one of those social scenarios, got affiliated with family care, and they reached out to us, and we now have been supporting him for a couple of years, and he's never returned to homelessness.
Wow. I do
Um,
think that I
and
do
I
think
have to
that
laugh
there's,
because
oh, go ahead. Go
do I
ahead.
think what now?
Oh no, go
Well,
ahead. You have
I
to
love
laugh.
this kid because he needed someone to kind of row up next to him, and he wasn't used to having a lot of interaction, and so that bridge to home team has got him just really nicely staffed. Not, I think there's a staff coming in and out of his house twice a week. I think it was more. I think we've been able to graduate less because now he's kind of got the routine. um, our staff can do oversight, like if we notice something isn't right, like if their medication is getting low or things like that, we can call their care coach at family care and say, we saw this, you might want to check, the nurse may want to check up on that and things like that. We can drive them to the pharmacy and get their prescriptions. We keep a very open communication, not only with the client, in this case a client who does not have guardianship. He's, being supported by family care. He qualifies. So we are in touch with him weekly, and we're in touch with his care team through his payer because they offer supports too. And they can make sure that his financial support place and that he's getting to the doctor. And, we can get him to the doctor, but they have to, somebody's got to be making sure the appointments are happening. So usually that's the
Okay.
nurse on the care team through the family care benefit. So we're knowledgeable on how these systems should link together, and we're not
Yes.
afraid to call for somebody and say, well, how's this supposed to work? And it's working so well for this young man. I mean, I'm really thrilled about this. He's a member of his community now. He's going out to different activities in the community. He's more social. He's communicating more. He's looking physically better. So there is real payoff there. But he's our only person that we took from homelessness to habitable living. But because we work with a lot of families, 95% of the clients that we're caring for in the Bridge to Home program still reside with their parents. So we are
Oh,
providing these respite services or the supportive home care in the family home. And so those moms and dads are seeing us coming and going all the time from their home.
okay. So that's really good to know. So the families that are choosing to have their children stay living with them into adulthood and they're not choosing like a group home, this gives lots of opportunities to have, parents need some respite time and they want their child to still be more
Yeah,
independent because we kind of talk about that. Like sometimes when kids go move into a group home, they create more independence because
they
they're
have to.
opportunity, right? So you guys are that bridge to home, right? Where you're
Yeah.
helping them to figure out how do we allow our adult child to be more independent? Yeah.
Right. And you just have to, we just work individually with families and we work individually with payers so that we make sure that these services that are being funded, braid together nicely, that there's, that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And, a common scenario is that a child may be in school all day long and mom and dad work, but no one gets home till 5 or
Mhm.
5:30. So we meet the bus and we stay and
Okay.
help the child after school till mom or dad get home. And that's a perfect thing. And so we can get a light snack going, we can get dinner going, we can help them if they have any homework, we can get them safely on and off the bus. If they have, we can, if the mother or father trains us on some speech or language activities or things they want us to do, we can do that, because usually those are pretty simple things to work on. We can play games, we can go on an outing, we can take them to the park. We do a lot of that fill in. We also weekend respite, not overnight, but those respites are generally longer, so families can go have a nice 8 hour stretch of time where they can get some of the rest and care they need. We even can provide respite on occasion overnight with advance notice. So if families want to go off, families sometimes want to go to a wedding, for example, and not take the child that has a disability, because the child with a disability may not be able to manage a full weekend of
Yes.
socializing and living out of a hotel, for example. So we with enough notice, we can staff that for that family too. So we fill in
Wow.
a lot. We do a lot more hours in the summer because kids are off of school, and we're just getting all that geared in right this week. I've been working with payers on getting those plans in place so that families, we can step in and provide some supportive home care while those families are working,
Right. So
Monday through Friday, because the school usually takes care of that piece.
what's the youngest age for that bridge to home?
Our youngest age that we had was somebody under one. That
Okay.
we were contacted early in our work here, that a young mom had come home into the county with a baby who had Down syndrome, and she had a professional career, and she also had other children under the age of 5. And
Hmm.
so they hired us to come in, I many times a week. I can't remember. It was long ago, and we stayed with that child, and provided the respite care and the supportive home personal supports to that little person with Down syndrome for several years. I think we did it
Wow.
until they started going to full day school. Yeah,
Wow.
and we've worked with other babies like that who have needed. The county really is really great on recognizing, that we can provide
And is that
work,
billed through,
those kind
is
of
that billed,
for a young
is
child.
that billed through insurance or through waiver, or does it depend?
And that's billed through the children's long-term support waiver. The
Okay.
children's long-term support waiver.
Okay.
The
Because
same thing that would underwrite birth to 3.
right. Sometimes I've heard that if they're younger, it's harder to get those type of services if they're under like 2 or 3 years old.
I don't know. We've had a few. We've had, I
Hey,
would say we've had more than 3, but
okay.
I think it depends. I really do think there may be, I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting the parents' experience, because there is, limited funding. We're all running up against limited funding for all these different programs. And, but it may be in those cases, um, that each usually, and families should know this, you need to become a strong advocate for your child's needs and be able to communicate that to your caseworker on why it would be important for your child to have those services. A
So
lot
are
of times
you help
families can't see that right away.
right,
Yeah.
right, they can't. And so are you able to meet with them and help guide them and how to explain what their needs are a little bit? Because sometimes families don't realize
You,
all the things they're doing.
yeah, I've occasionally had people call me and say the county won't give me services. I'm on a waiting list or whatever. I said, no, wait a minute, we got to slow down here and back up through the story or whatever. And
Yeah.
there are different, we're knowledgeable on the different sources of funding and differences that are available. And so we can kind of walk that family through who they should be talking to, at it's children's services are still counties in our state, and who should they be talking to at the county to figure out if there's a program that would address their need.
Okay.
And often there is. And
Okay.
then
No,
it'll be
I'm
up to them to to work with
Sure.
with the county intake. And if they get sometimes a family just doesn't have that skill, or they might not be able to articulate exactly what they want. And I'll I can actually kind of help them figure out this is who you need to be talking to. And I think you're asking about this kind of services,
Good.
and give
Okay.
them my name. Tell them you've talked to me,
Okay.
and that I told them to call you. I say it just
Yeah.
as plainly. Just tell I can't remember. Just tell Jen that Peg Gagnon told you to call her and
Yeah.
ask talk about this. And
Right.
sometimes, I haven't gotten into trouble with that yet, but I
No,
could.
you're just
But
advocating, which is what we're all about,
yeah,
right? My
yeah,
my question then is a lot of families say, well, I can get these many hours, but none of the agencies can staff and give me the
right.
hours, and I can't find anyone on my own. So you've had some strong staffing abilities these days,
We
or
have. We have been able to support 45 or 50 clients for many years, and we
okay,
can grow beyond that. And
okay,
you're looking at the head recruiter for our
okay,
direct support professionals, and we recruit a lot out of the university at River Falls.
okay,
And I'll tell you why. They've got a program down there, that speech and language program, that they're, if you're in speech and they don't call it the communication disorders,
yes,
and down there
yeah,
they've got a lot of talented undergraduate students and grad students who often are looking for part-time supplemental income while they're getting their education. These
okay,
students make excellent caregivers for our
sure,
all populations with disabilities, but especially our children. And we
okay,
send in these great, you know, junior and senior in college, or first or second year grad students who are really studying this population and really
yeah,
are getting it. It not only it's a win-win. It's a win-win for the family and the client, and it's a win-win for the student that is looking to build out their resume or their personal
right,
experience
right,
working with people with disabilities. And I said, I like to get them when they're about a sophomore in that area, and they're starting to move into that, because I said, you will be bulletproof by the time you
yes,
go to apply for your grad program, because you will have
yeah,
worked with such a variety of
right,
people, and you
right,
will be able to use that in your interviews or in your narrative question answering. It's just invaluable for them. And
yeah,
we have a lot of kids that are studying to be special ed. We've got this summer, we have three or four that are studying that are pre-med. And so
okay,
anybody is in a profession that would meet up with a family with a child with special needs, we try to find those students studying that area, and then offer them, because it's a
yeah.
great job. It's a great part-time job for them.
That's great. I was looking, so for
No, we
Bridge
make
for Community, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we have a little in the Bridge to Home Services side. I work both companies, and in the Bridge to
Yeah,
Home Services, and we do on the other side too. But our job is to maximize the utilization of the authorizations by the county
yeah,
and the state. You're, as a
yeah,
family, when you get authorized those hours, you need to use those, because the next time you go through authorization, and if you haven't used them for one reason or another, they may not allocate that many more hours to
right,
you, because they're going to
right.
go actually using. The
Yeah.
financial reviewers are going to look at what your utilization is.
So you have, so I'm
So
looking
we
at the
really,
website for, I'm looking for the website for Bridge for Community Life. Do you also have another website for the Bridge to Home? Is that like two separate?
yes, if you go, if you're, yes,
Okay.
if you should go to under, at the Bridge for Community Life website, go to
Okay.
programs or services, whatever the top tab is there,
Yeah, it says, yep. So I see day
and then
programs, evening,
open up one of
social,
the
and
service,
transportation. Okay.
open up one of the services,
Okay.
and then
Bridge.
scroll down. It's Bridge to Home
Okay.
linked there.
Let's see. Might be. Yep. If you scroll down towards the bottom, Bridge to Home Services is there. Okay, that'll be really helpful.
There you
Okay.
go. There's one way you can get it. And then also they have their, I think you can just Google Bridge to Home
Yeah.
Services Wisconsin or Hudson,
Okay.
Wisconsin, and you can take it to their website. The Bridge to Home Services website is basically going to tell you broadly what we do, but it's going to give you
Okay.
my name and my phone number. So I am
Okay.
really your if you're not coming in through the county as a child
Yeah.
through a social worker, or you're not coming in through your iris worker or your family care coach, call
Hmm.
me and I'll be your
Okay.
front door
Okay.
and
Because yeah,
that we can
I
get you
was not
started that way.
aware of, I was not aware of this. So this is great. And has this been growing over the last how many years, Bridge to Home?
Yeah, we opened in 21 and we've just
Okay.
gradually been growing and growing and growing and growing.
That's
I think we
exciting. Well,
started
there's
with,
such a need. Such a need.
yeah, there is. And we're adding more services. I've been in contract negotiation last week and this week with the payers, and we're adding two or three more services, widen the offerings to families. Um, it's as a provider, you need to really stay on top of what's happening with Medicaid policy, not only at the state level, but at the federal level. And everybody, my experience has been that you just need to really, as a family, you need to really get involved in any sort of advocacy for Medicaid services, even on a more global, not just for your own kid, but for everybody, because there is a
Right.
movement afoot to reduce the amount that the government would want to do to support people with disabilities. And we want to make sure that we're talking to our legislators and that we're voting. I mean, very basic things. It doesn't take a lot of time, but
Right.
I'm on speed dial with our local reps and our states. And it's not that I ever get a person. I'm just registering my concern about a certain bill, or I'm asking them to vote a certain
Okay.
way that would not take away services or would create more services, things like
Okay.
that. We're doing a lot of advocacy right now around this DVR funding piece. So, but the
Right.
very basic thing you can do is even text or email to your representative.
Right. Right.
And that
I
can be
think
done
that a
very
lot of
quickly too.
parents, I feel like the parents of like more really physically involved kids like realize that they can qualify for some of the services, but some of the kids that are like on the cusp with like they're on the spectrum and things like that, they can't go and do the typical things. They just need a little bit more help. And I don't know that the families always know that. I even think about the boy that the young man that was homeless. It's like there's these kids who they kind of make it through, but then they don't have the life skills to like live on their own. And then I even know someone, a friend of a friend, where their parents think that their son is lazy. And it's like, no, you just don't know that he's neurodivergent, and no
Right,
one's talking about it, kind of things
right.
like that. So it seems like you guys can help such a vast amount of people.
We really can. We really can in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just to say to the parent, does your son or daughter have an IEP? I mean, that's a basic question that
Right,
if someone came to me and they weren't really sure how needy their child was or what they even
right,
needed, but you just
right,
explained what you had. The very first question I would say is, do you have does your son have, does the word IEP mean anything
right.
to you, or do you have an IEP? Often say, "Oh yeah." I said, "Well, if you have an IEP, you've done the first thing. You
Yeah,
are now there." And I said,
yeah,
"Now we can start having you make some phone calls to figure out what other benefits may be available
yeah,
to your son or daughter, because we now have
yeah,
identified that there's this need here. If they've ever
right,
had any sort of speech language or physical therapy in a birth to three
right.
program. You wouldn't have an IP in the birth to pre program, but you probably would have an ISP. This is
IFSP. Yep,
alphabet soup for
yep,
new
yep.
families. Yeah.
Right,
So, but
exactly.
what I'm
It
saying
is.
is, if you've had, you know, even in the case of my own daughter, when she was first
Right.
born, we didn't know everything about her, but I had a neurologist that was smart enough to actually send a letter to the county saying, to St. Croix County saying, you know, you may be interested in this little girl.
Yeah.
Here's her name, mom's name and dad's
Oh,
name,
wow.
address. Yeah, I probably signed off on that. I can't even remember,
Sure.
but I
Right.
don't know if doctors do that anymore. But if there's I always say to a family, if something doesn't seem right, it's
Yeah.
trust your intuition and start
Yeah.
asking some questions.
Yeah. The doctors, if they doctor in Minnesota, they don't really understand Wisconsin, even though we're so close, right? So
Right.
they try to refer, but things are differently operated and all those things. So
Agree.
Peg, I want you to stay on the call for a minute, but I'm gonna end the recording in a second. So I want to thank you so much. This has
Oh, you're
been
welcome.
so valuable. We probably should have scheduled one for the community life and one for Bridge to Home because I didn't even know how much, that's out there. So this is a good start and I'm excited for families. We'll get this posted soon, so families
Great.
can access it. So I'm gonna
Thank
thank you.
thank you.